Start please with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all. That's a lot of fun with all these lags. All right. I'm trying to find the actual agenda. Did we get an agenda packet sent out? We did, right, Jessica?
Yes. I sent it, I believe I sent it on Thursday.
Like, not hearing you.
Oh, I believe I sent it out on Thursday, and I sent an addition to it today for the additional wage authorizations that I received, so it should be towards the top of your inbox, hopefully.
I do a meeting packet, it says, from today. It just starts with wage authorizations.
Greg, that's a reply to her original email. So try scrolling up, you'll see the meeting packet. Should be the first one of the thread.
I think it's the very next one she emailed, unless you got some more emails from her than the group did.
Yeah. And Greg, you're muted. Greg, you're muted.
It's interesting. I started to download it to a PDF so I could read it, and then I went over to open up the meeting on the computer. So when I went back to that page in here, it went back down to the original other post, so I was opening the wrong one. But it was right above there. All right, do we have anybody in panelists, people that are looking to make a comment, public comment?
I do have.
Who do we have with us?
I have Marianne, and she said somebody else from the planning board was calling from the 3418 number. So I have those two individuals. I also have Ralph Rogers joining us right now, and also Douglas Martin. So I'm assuming they're all here for the planning board alternate.
I would think so as well. We can ask quickly if anybody has any other comment not relating to that they want to make before we start. And give them a minute to raise their hand. I assume that's a no.
Nope, nothing.
Okay. Then we will move forward. We have it's first on our list, so we'll go ahead and deal with it. We have the appointment for the planning board. We have requests from Anthony Mobilio and a request from Ralph Rogers. And I did say we would get to that this week. And I've had several communications from different people on both sides of the issue. And I've had an opportunity to read the commentary put in the paper by Ralph and then the response by a member of the planning board. Have you guys got a chance to see those same things?
Yes.
Matt? Still with us, Matt? It doesn't say you're muted, but I'm not hearing you, Matt, so I don't know if you are trying to talk or not. Oh, he's gone. Let's give him just a minute and see if he signs back in before we Let's move forward. He's saying he's going to have trouble with the internet. I did not drink enough water today. Well, we'll go start with the topic. Dylan, you have an impression from the things that you've seen and read before we bring the other people into comment?
I do have some impressions. Yes. Seems for an appointment to the planning board, there's an awful lot of interest from people in town, much more than what one might expect from a sleepy local election, which is a good thing. I have kind of a lot to sift through, and I understand that there's two big camps, plenty of people who are pulling for Mr. Mobilio and plenty of people pulling for Mr. Rogers. How would you like me to start laying out my impressions, Mr. Chair?
Any way you see fit, just your general, I want to make sure you read the comments that we talked about, because I said we discussed those first of all.
Sure.
For example,
Yes.
I had no problem with Mr. Rogers' comments in the newspaper whatsoever. There was nothing slanderous or outrageous. He expressed his opinions, didn't mention people by name.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think some of what he wrote was a little bit, pushing the envelope a bit, maybe a little bit edgy and outspoken, but I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. Like you said, I feel like he didn't mention names, and I feel like the response to what he wrote from different people, I was expecting to see something a little bit more toxic, and I don't really see it that way. I feel like, I think Matt is back.
I made it. Go ahead, finish, Dylan.
All right, I got
Sure. But I still say that Mr. Rogers is a fine candidate for this position. I wasn't too taken aback by the exchanges in the newspaper and on the Facebook groups. That being said, I've had support. We all know there's the support within the planning board for Mr. Mobilio, and I have received a few emails in support of his candidacy as well. I have gotten much more of an outpouring for Mr. Rogers' candidacy. So those are my impressions out of the gate.
Okay, Matt, caught much of that?
Yeah, I caught Dylan. Obviously, I bounced there for a little while, but I'm back on. I have had people reach out on both sides. I got an anonymous letter with no return address that spoke of thinking that the planning board would work better because of the approach Ralph Rogers took, creating some friction. I had a couple other people kind of present the same concerns. And then I've had 4 or 5 people reach out to me in support of Ralph Rogers. My biggest thing here is I do believe Ralph Rogers is a good candidate, and I honestly think that his intent is to try to find a way to help fix some problems that he learned while being the previous associate planning board member. And maybe the way he expressed himself might have ruffled some feathers, but I think his intent was to try to help rather than just be the person in the balcony constantly calling out and saying this town board or that town board is doing a poor job. He's trying to participate and see if he can help with that. And I do agree with some differing opinions on the board how to create a better balance in representing the town. So it's difficult for me not to support Ralph Rogers because he ran for the position. He didn't win it, but he didn't lose it by a landslide. He previously was the associate planning board member. He wants to stay a part of it. He's trying to identify some things and work with the board, even though I know it kind of was not received well the way he started the process. But he did follow up saying he would be able to work with the board. So right now, I'm generally still in favor of Ralph Rogers. And this is nothing against Tony Mobilio. I know him. I think he's a good guy. I do think he wants to do what he can to help the town. But I would say that Ralph Rogers' previous experience as an associate planning board also member does give him a little bit more experience going into the position. You know, he's worked it a little. So it's hard for me right now not to support Ralph. I do think he wants to try to make things better. I do think he also might approach it a little differently given the opportunity, because I don't think his intent was to alienate the planning board members, but just to raise some concerns that not only he witnessed, but other people have brought to his attention and my attention in the past. So that's generally right now, that's how I see it. It's tough, it's frictional, but I think that sometimes the message needs to be sent and received in a way that the intent is to improve, not to denigrate other people. I don't think that was his intent. I think he wants to improve the planning board. I've got nothing more.
Has anybody seen the Facebook comments and posts? I haven't seen any of the Facebook stuff. And I'm really less concerned about the stuff that goes back and forth in Facebook as much as I am the things that are in the newspaper.
I've seen both.
I didn't see the Facebook posts.
The Facebook posts weren't really, Ralph did not start out calling anybody by name, but he did have a Facebook post after one of the planning board members did post something in the paper and called out Ralph by name. Ralph did raise that up in Facebook and just provide a counterpoint. But generally, he just kept trying to speak to the issues he thought the planning board had. There were other people that made comments that were not necessarily respectful, but I did not see comments from Ralph that were disrespectful. They were just difficult to hear. And so I did not see Ralph denigrating anybody directly. He was just trying to call out that the planning board had some issues and he thought he could help it.
All right, that's it. Good.
I also looked through the Facebook posts in question, and I would confer with Matt on that. I didn't see anything incendiary put forward by Ralph by any means.
Well, reading the newspaper article, I felt that Ralph's statements. I don't know if we're getting frozen computer here or what.
You froze for about 20 seconds.
Okay, my picture moves in my camera, but it's all right.
I can hear you fine.
I'll try again. Okay. When I read the newspaper article, I had absolutely no issues with what Ralph Rogers said in the newspaper. In fact, I endorse most of what he said. It's been my feeling when the planning board was making bylaws, they were going out of their way to ban retail marijuana in this town. When I asked them about that, they just smirked. I found that was working against the town's wishes, quite frankly. We had a town meeting, the people voted to have retail marijuana, and they made it virtually impossible without somebody buying multiple properties, if they could, to achieve that end. I think that somebody on the board that's going to bring in the opposing view is necessary, not just to recommend, but necessary, because they are the board seems to be 100% anti-marijuana, and I'm not happy with that. The fact that the town voted for it. Personally, I don't use, have never used, have no interest in marijuana whatsoever. But I acknowledge and respect the wishes of the others that have voted for this in a legal manner. And have asked to have a retail shop here in town. I think we should be finding a way to rezone some areas to make it, more reasonable for someone to do that in this town. As far as the response from the board, they called Ralph out by name. They made comments about Ralph and accused him of doing and saying certain things. The newspaper didn't allow Ralph to comment in response on things that they published about him specifically, what I thought was kind of callous of the newspaper to actually post something about somebody without getting comment from them in response to it. So I found the counter ads that came from the gentleman on the planning board to be offensive. To that end, yes, Ralph has tried to get on the board, and I would be in favor of putting him back in that position. And I would entertain at this point, if we have anyone in our guests that would like to speak on this, I give them a minute to speak their words.
Sure. Mary Ann has her hand. Allow her to talk.
Okay, bring her on. Mary Ann, we are bringing you on. I see your mic is muted right now. Okay. Mary Ann, are you there? Is it just me, or are we just not hearing anything yet?
I don't hear anything.
I'm not hearing.
Okay, does anybody
Maybe
else
do a-
in the audience wish to say
on the
something?
phone.
Doug Martin has his hand up.
We can move to another panel. Move to another panel member. There you go. You can bring them all up. Just we'll have one talk at a time. There's no one. I'm going to bring them all in that want to speak here.
Yeah, this is Doug Martin. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Doug. Go ahead.
In response to your comments, Selectman O'Sullivan, the planning board was never against having marijuana in the town of Barre. And in fact, last week we voted to grant a permit for a marijuana outdoor cultivation facility to Ronnie Higgins and Chris Higgins. You may not know that. The other thing I have to say is that the planning board is ready and able to work with anyone whosoever that the Board of Selectmen choose to appoint. And we will do our best job to incorporate them and their ideas into the planning board criteria. That's all I have to say.
I would expect nothing less from you, Doug. Is Mary Ann ready to talk? Mary Ann, want to try again? Why don't we take comments from Ralph if Ralph has anything to add?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm really looking forward to an opportunity to help the town of Barre. I don't know how the Board of Selectmen are going to move forward tonight. I'm hoping that I get appointed. If you look at the votes, the write-in for the alternate position, I was second. I am really looking forward to working with Ms. Musgraves. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. I watched her at the last couple of meetings, and I think she's a valuable asset to the planning board. I am taking classes with CPTC in preparation. You know, when I get into something, I really get into it, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity of trying to help the town of Barre. That's really what I have to say right now. Thank you.
Right. I am reading some messages from Mary Ann. She says she wants to speak. So I don't know if we can try to get her on again, or if she wants to type her message and we can read it.
We have one more phone number that joined at 5001, but I was not notified of them before. But we can, if you want to bring them in.
We can let them give us a message and identify themselves before we just open them up. That way we can at least, we've had these meetings jump before with people putting unwelcome comments on the page.
Understandable.
So make sure that who it is before we bring them in.
But usually, if they're calling in by cell phone, they can't put in a chat on who they are. I don't think.
Mary Ann says Jessica has a copy of what Mr. LaRange wants to say, and you can read it.
Okay, yes, I did receive that this afternoon, which is why I wasn't able to send it in your packet. So otherwise I would have sent it in your packet. So Frank said
who is Mr. LaRange?
he's on the planning board. Is that okay?
Frank LaRange
Yeah, my state.
is the individual that put the counter message in the paper.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I'd like to hear his comments if you'd like to read it, Jessica.
Sure. So he said, at this time, Mr. Rogers should not be an associate member of the planning board due to the following. Placing criticism of the planning board, of whom he is a member, in the Barre Gazette and social media postings. The social media posts were directed toward the planning board with a direct link to myself. The social media post started unfounded accusations toward my character, which my representative informed me I cannot discuss at this time. During the meeting on June 9th, Mr. Rogers lost control with outbursts toward the planning board and especially the chairman. Selectman Urban attended this meeting and hopefully would confirm that. Before the June 9th meeting, Mr. Rogers placed once again on social media for residents to attend the planning board meeting and make sure you have popcorn. Who does this as a member of a board? I have received phone calls alerting me as to what had been going on social media. Residents have reached out to me and thanked me and the planning board for keeping Barre a small, beautiful town, of which many reasons why they moved to this town years ago. I am an honorable, discharged, and support Mr. Rogers' constitutional right for freedom of speech without using defamation and untrue facts. On July 7th, 4 members out of 5 members of the planning board recommend Anthony Mobilio as the associate member, of which confirmed via memo to us. That's all I have.
Okay. Once again, we've all looked into jointly the comments in the newspaper and on Facebook, and no one sees that he's calling out anyone by name or he's insulting anybody on there. And certainly his comments in the newspaper were not outrageous. They were strong. They were his opinion, and he has a right to that opinion. This doesn't change my mind at all. Matt or Dylan, do you have any comments to add?
I feel like this message to the board that we just heard Jessica read was perhaps a little inflammatory itself, and I wonder if Mr. Urban or Mr. Rogers would want to make any comment about that meeting. I didn't catch that planning board meeting, so I'm interested in hearing a little bit more if either of those two gentlemen want to put something forward.
All right, we'll start with Matt.
Yes, I attended the June 9th meeting. A couple of things occurred during the June 9th meeting, if I'm remembering it as the right meeting. Because there were a couple meetings that I attended recently. maybe somebody here can remind me quickly, was the June 9th meeting a meeting where the planning board actually met at the senior center? Or was that the meeting prior to that? I think that was the meeting prior to it. And what happened during that meeting is they were getting into discussions. They were trying to revisit the High Hawk Farm special permit because they had done something in March, and it ended up they didn't have enough people for a special permit quorum. And what that means is they need at least 4 members of the planning board in attendance in order to have the public hearing for a special permit. It's not just a quorum of 3 out of 5. And so, realizing that, they were attempting to revisit that, take the right steps, and a few other glitches occurred in their attempt to do that again. One of the glitches was the link that was posted was not working, so a lot of people couldn't participate if they didn't get a link, I believe, directly in their email. There was something wrong with the My Town Government link, and people weren't able to get in. I do believe for about 20 seconds, Joshua Smith, our moderator, stepped in and advised everybody that this would not be considered a proper open meeting. There was discussion. It did get a little heated because there was frustration on the part of High Hawk Farm, who submitted their request in February and then got an approval in March, and then were told that the approval didn't count because it didn't meet the public hearing requirement. And then trying to revisit on June 9th, and it once again not working right, kind of pushed it out again. And so it got heated because it seemed to be a planning board procedural thing that, understanding COVID and other things got involved, just continued to delay things. Ralph got into that a little bit, just saying this is one of the reasons I think we need to fix this, and this is what he has kind of been talking about. And understandably, you know, some people on the planning board were a little defensive because they're trying to do their best and it just wasn't working for whatever reason. They weren't repeating the same mistakes. It was just a different mistake kind of each time. And so it was heated, but I, again, don't recall anybody calling an individual out saying it's your fault. There may have been inference that the chairman kind of owns the responsibility of that ultimately. But I've also heard Ralph, I believe, he's told me, but I don't want to say what he has in private spoken to Doug. But I understand he was not trying to make Doug look bad, but it's also something he believes is a public issue that shouldn't be completely held in behind the doors. And at the time, he was still an associate planning board member, so there's a fine line between how much he can speak to other planning board members about his thoughts without doing it in open meeting. And so he expressed his opinion in open meeting, and I think it just was more frustrating. And when you tack on the emotions everybody was having during the time, yes, it was heated, but I still don't think anybody was having like an attack on an individual. But I do think some people were taking it as an attack on them. So that was, from my perspective, June 9th, what I thought I witnessed.
All right, very good. Ralph, would you like to make a comment briefly?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The June 9th meeting, that was a Zoom meeting. It was quite embarrassing, being a member of the planning board at all, having these issues just keep coming and coming and coming. What people are referring to is I did directly ask Doug who was responsible for these issues. To be perfectly frank, I was shocked when he said it was him, that it was his responsibility as the chairperson. Was not intending to call him out like that. I thought like posting for a public hearing was the duty of Mary Ann. And I mean, I expected that to be the response that I was hearing, not that Doug was going to take responsibility. Although I understand when you're the chairperson, you are responsible for what's going on. So I was taken a bit back by Doug saying that, and I understand that that's why he feels like I was attacking him. The meeting is finally on YouTube. I love the fact that these meetings are going by Zoom. They can get on YouTube because I think the public has to be aware of what's going on in town. Finance Committee has full transparency. Board of Selectmen have full transparency. And the Planning Board hide behind the doors of every place they possibly can, every opportunity they get. And that has to change. That's one of the things I'm pretty vocal about, that it needs to change. That's not right. Open meeting forum, the whole 9 yards. They need to be transparent about what's going on, and I don't believe they are. That's one of my issues I have with the Planning Board. The June 9th meeting, I have watched that numerous times, and yeah, I get upset. I get upset with the town attorney as well. He blamed things on COVID, and then I said, "Excuse me, can you go point by point the 3 issues that we have had, how those were affected by COVID?" And he was able to say one of them was vaguely. The other 2, he admitted that they weren't, and I was frustrated. I apologized in that meeting for being frustrated. And I did say that I was embarrassed, and I felt every person on the Planning Board should be embarrassed for that. So I don't know if you can hear the emotion in my voice, but just thinking about it gets me upset. We need to be better than what we are, and that's what I want to help do. That's all I want to do. I just want to help. I want the opportunity to help. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I just want to that Edward Kelly from the Planning Board is also here.
Do you have something to add?
He may.
Ed, if you have something to add, I'll give you 1 minute.
No, I'm just watching. I had a conservation site walk, so I'm signing in late. So I'm just trying to catch what information I can.
All right. One piece of advice I give to Ralph is try to keep your head in the meeting. Even when you get frustrated, you're better off to take a break and take a minute. We get upset. Everyone does. We get frustrated. It's difficult sometimes. But, that frustration from people comes because they're passionate about what they're doing and they believe in what they're doing. And all the more reason I think Ralph is a right person to put on as the associate, as the alternate member. So I don't know if you guys are ready to make a motion, but I would entertain a motion to appoint an alternate member at this point.
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Ralph Rogers to the alternate position of the Planning Board.
I would second that.
I have a motion and a second to make Ralph Rogers the alternate member of the Planning Board. Does the board have any further discussion on this?
No.
Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor?
Clark, aye.
Matt Urban, yes.
Greg O'Sullivan, yes. Congratulations, Ralph. You'll be on the alternate Planning Board position. Our next topic is personnel administration, the wage authorizations. Did we wind up with all the appointments in that last email that we need, or?
Yes, it was just missing the DPW because there was some misunderstanding on what the wages would be with the new union contract.
Well, we don't have the union contract done, so we don't know what the wages will be yet.
We've agreed and voted on it as a board that we agree to the terms. I think we're just waiting to execute the contract between the 2 parties.
So you have an agreement, we just haven't got it formally done by the board yet?
The board approved the terms. So I represented the board in the negotiations, and then I came before the board regarding the terms, and I'm pretty confident that sometime in February, we actually voted to approve the terms, and that put it into place for the union to make their final vote and then just execute. And last I recall, with emails between Fred and I think the union representative, Eli, was that everybody had voted to approve it, so they just needed to sign the paperwork. But Fred Dupre can kind of give us that where are we really at the last step. But I'm fairly confident both sides agreed to the terms. We just haven't signed the paperwork because of COVID made it harder to get it back and forth.
I don't recall this coming on our agenda at all. Dylan, am I missing that? You recall us voting on the terms to agree to them?
I don't recall this off the top of my head.
And we'd have to find.
I remember having the discussion with the board.
I don't think I've seen any contract or anything to vote on to this point yet. It may be agreed on. We just need to get the vote through. But we should hold off on the wage authorization until we get the vote formally done. We can backdate a couple of paychecks if we have to for it.
Greg?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Matt's correct. You guys did vote and make a motion on it back in February. Because all that paperwork now is in Jessica's office. But you guys did. You did go over it. I don't remember which meeting it was, though. And it was approved. You guys agreed on it.
I have no recollection of seeing contract with the union that we voted on. Just don't.
The terms were pretty
Doesn't
much.
mean we didn't. There's been a lot going on.
In the contract. We had discussed and agreed that we would provide a 50% increase, I believe, and then we would do 2%, 2%, 2%. It was similar to how we approached the police the last time, where we knew we needed to bring them up to closer to the regional average, because most of our DPW people were well underpaid compared to our neighboring towns, such as Hubbardston, Rutland. And so this brought them closer, didn't bring them above anybody. And that was really it. Everything, nobody was arguing like with other clauses in the contract. It was pretty much a salary wage negotiation. We agreed on it, and then we just waited for council to finish coordinating with the union to get it executed.
I remember talking about it, and I thought we agreed to that, but I don't recall seeing the contract and voting on the contract. And I think that's an important step. Agreeing to the terms and the wage that you go forward and finalize, that's one thing. But it needs to be in the form of a contract that we actually read, vote, and approve in a meeting, and I don't think we've done that.
I'll go look through tomorrow or later this evening after the meeting and find to see if that vote was ever made. But like Sandy said, my most recent communications with Eli was that he is going to make a time to come and pick up the finished contract. So it is my understanding that the contract has been finished. And again, I'll have to go and see if the formal vote has been made by this board. But that's just my most up-to-date understanding of it.
That is correct.
We normally wouldn't vote on the contract till it's written in front of us. So we'd make a vote to agree to it, the contract, it's written, then it comes back in front of us and we approve it. And then it goes forward. And I don't recall that ever happened. So we need to just make sure of that before we move forward. it's certainly possible. We've been through so much in the last few months and a lot of strange meeting manners and things online that are hard to follow, but I just have no recollection of signing or approving the actual contract.
I'll do some big.
We reviewed draft of the contract. It was emailed to us to review. And then it was sent to the union to vote on, approve, and then have them sign it. It wouldn't come back before us until they've signed it. And then we're looking at it, and that's the final contract that we'll vote on and then sign then. In other words, we went through the draft confirming that the draft met what we had approved in February. So it didn't require necessarily a formal board review. And until it comes back from the union, we can't make the final formal like you're saying. So I understand what you're saying.
Okay, and
it's
therefore we
final,
cannot.
it's not signed.
Therefore, there's going to be no wage authorizations on that tonight.
Okay.
No, you know what I'm saying? I want to get it done and signed and finished.
Yeah.
And then we'll go through. It's going to be back. It's going to be backdated to when we made the agreement, of course, and we'll just have to catch up. For that couple of weeks, and that's going to be a lot of fun for our newer treasurer, interim treasurer, when we get to it. But I think we're going to have to proceed that way just because it's not done.
Understood.
You guys okay with that?
Yeah, I would just suggest that maybe we ask Jessica to notify Eli that his timely response to picking it up will make a difference on the people he represents and how quickly they get paid. He may not be aware. That's all.
Okay, I'll be in contact with him tomorrow morning.
Okay, so I do appreciate that we have all these wage authorizations on here. Is there any place that there's just a list of them by name instead of me looking at the full forms online? In other words, is there a list that I can just read the names to approve the list of people off of that? Or are they just in these all long forms?
They're all in long forms. I just framed this off of how Andrew did it last year. So that's how I did this agenda.
Yeah, usually they're all done with a cover sheet with a list of all the names that are on it. So we would have everybody listed out. So what I'm looking at, these are all DPW. Matt?
There is a list for many of them, but more the boards and committees are by list. So that's in the pamphlet, but also like our building department, DPW department right now just shows Jason as the superintendent. Our finance committee doesn't necessarily fall on us because that's the moderator, but there's a long list of fire department individuals. So in the packet, starting on the PDF page 17, there's a long list of appointments, but I do think we may need to go through that and update it because I think there's a few errors in that list or things that need to be updated. I think Brianna Skowira, I always say her name so wrong. She's still in the building department instead of our new regional inspector. I think we should have some of these boards or committees, we should work through the process of getting people to confirm they're still interested. Because I know Charlie Chase is still on the capital planning committee, but I also thought he was on the 250th anniversary committee. But this list only shows Richard Stevens on that committee, and I think we got more people because he's actually started having some meetings. So I think what we got to do is take a little time to kind of update, because between transition of different administrators, we might not be completely accurate on it.
Right. So, Mr. Stevens, for example, is the only one listed on that committee because he is the only one whose term ended on June 30th, 2020. So the other,
Oh, thank you.
the other members, their terms haven't expired yet.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, so we need to appoint the members on this list for the 9/11 Memorial Committee. We need to reappoint Richard Stevens on the 250th Anniversary Committee. We need to reappoint all the members of the Age Dementia Friendly Committee. We need to reappoint the members of the Agricultural Commission. We need to reappoint the alternate electrical inspector, the alternate gas plumbing inspector. We need to reappoint, this just has 3 of the list of 5 on animal control. Kerry Bowles, Gregory Devine, and Jennifer Ford. The Barre Common Oversight Committee, we need to reappoint 4 people on the list. The Barre Cultural Council, we need to appoint 3 new members and reappoint 1. So, quite a few. Board of Registered Voters, Jessica Crawford has been appointed. Building Department, Ralph Roulette, Brian Carpenter III, and Robert Laguerre. Brianna will not be. Daryl Sweeney, and I don't see William Cantel down there.
Yeah, he will take the place of Aubrey.
Yeah, you can do a few over here if you'd like. Oh, I think I just missed that.
Chief Procurement of Andrew Golis has to be removed.
Currently,
And guys, what do you think? I'd like to finish going through, strike a couple names and move forward with most of these appointments so that we can get this done. The fire department's been appointed, correct? Be appointed and did their wage authorization.
Correct.
So they can be stricken from our list.
Sure, why not?
So far, all we're seeing in the list is we need Andrew removed from the list everywhere he's included on it. Andrew Golis.
Is the Conservation
And we
Commission
needed-
just appointed, or is it an elected board for our town? I forget.
I don't know.
I believe it's appointed. That's at least there's at least some appointed members. I'm not sure if it's exclusively appointed or not.
Thank you.
So other than removing Brianna and inserting Mr. Cantel there and removing Andrew Golis,
I would suggest putting Jessica in that role for now. With the Chief Procurement Officer.
does she have the documentation for that?
I forget, do you have the NTPPO stuff, Jessica?
I do not. That would be something that if in the future, it's a very expensive course, so that's something that would be a future priority.
Well, we already appointed her. Well, that was the end of the year, so we'd have to just appoint her to the interim position for administrator. So reappoint the town administrator as per the contract, if we even need to. know as we need to. She's contracted specifically for a time. I don't believe we have to include her in the appointments.
No, but she also is not required to be PTO training to be appointed as your chief procurement officer. That pretty much just allows her to kind of execute, say, like the oil bid contract with our. She doesn't have to have that state training to do that role for the town. So it, in a way, it helps us administratively. But if you want to be more involved, Greg, and in the office more, reviewing and signing these contracts, until we have someone with that training, it would be a different story. But it's not required.
So it's only really if we have her going out looking for soliciting quotes or proposals. Then she'd have to follow the rules and advertise in a certain manner and all that. Everyday purchases that are normal annual bid items and not. More looking for a purchase than it is soliciting for a price.
Well, what I'm saying is the MPP or the MCPPO, I forget the acronym, that training is not required. You just still need to follow the rules. So Jessica can still follow those rules. If she needs to, she reaches out to different people to just say, am I taking the right steps? But the state does have people that can answer that for her if it's a more complicated style of bid than something she may have done before. So we do give her, appoint her as the chief procurement officer until we finish identifying our town administrator position. She can still fulfill that role completely. She just may need to take a little extra steps to just make sure she's doing it right, so we don't end up getting caught in a, did we properly post a bid, or did we review the bids properly, etc.
Correct. Yeah.
All right, so then why don't we do that then? We could approve this list we have of appointments for the town of Barre with the following changes. We would remove Brianna from the building commissioner and put William Cantel in there. And we'll remove Andrew Golis from where he is in our appointments and place Jessica in there instead. And then, as we have already appointed the fire department personnel, we can remove that portion from tonight's appointment vote. Somebody want to make a motion to that effect, or would you like me to make that motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we appoint the list of employees, committee, and board members as presented in the packet with the following revisions. We will replace Brianna Skawira with Mr. Cantel, and we would replace Andrew Golis as the Chief Procurement Officer with Jessica Sizer.
And remove the fire department from our vote tonight because they're already done.
Right. That works. And not include the fire department as it's been previously addressed.
Okay, I will second that motion.
Okay, hearing a motion, a second to appoint and or reappoint the town personnel. Do we have any more discussion on the issue? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Oh, I got one modification I'd like to make.
Certainly.
Personnel administrator, I'd like to remove Andrew Golis and also replace with Jessica Sizer.
Okay, so I have Dylan, I have a second on that still.
Second still, yes.
So I have a motion and a second for the appointments with the changes Matt has indicated. I'll take a roll call vote for all those in favor.
Clark, yes.
Urban, yes.
Greg O'Sullivan, yes. Now, as far as the wage authorizations, are these broken down in a manner, a point where I can jump in that they are not DPW? I just wish we had a list.
So what's included in the big packet is everybody except for the DPW personnel. So everybody in the big packet is non-union.
Still without a list. I'd really like to have a list to read. How many pages are there, those, before do you guys know before I scroll down? We want to try to read them through. Would we want to approve this list from page?
It ends with page 54.
So we'd have to go from page 25 through 54. They are all listed and listed with the wages and the increases. So we could refer to them that way. They are here listed individually and they are posted online, I believe, for this meeting. Is this packet viewable online?
I
didn't get that.
said I believe it is.
It appears that the majority of these also are just representing the 2% COLA. There are a couple here and there that include step raises, but most of these are 2% COLA.
I see police department personnel in here as well.
It's all of the
Yeah.
Are they due for a 2% or a raise this year? Or do we have to finish our negotiations to do that as well?
Yeah, so the police union needs still to be negotiated, but it was recommended to wait until there's a permanent town administrator at the last meeting.
The part-time patrolmen are not union represented,
Okay.
so I believe he is included part-time patrolman with the COLA. He is included. Yeah, it looks like right now the only people he included in his wage authorization are non-union represented members of the department. That would be the chief, the deputy chief, the part-time patrolman, and the administrative assistant. And that's all I'm seeing in the wage authorization, so the non-union represented employees.
So it looks like it's going to be an accurate list then. So I'd be looking for a motion for pages 25 through 54 of this packet. For approval.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the wage authorizations as listed between pages 25 and 54 of tonight's agenda packet.
I would second that.
I have a motion and a second for those 29 pages, 25 to 54. Do we have any more comment before we vote?
No.
Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the wage authorizations?
Clark, yes.
Urban, yes.
And O'Sullivan, yes. So this leaves us really with just the two unions to go. So when we can get them finishing their contracts, and that'll be part of the negotiation, that it can be backdated to July 1st when we get it done. So we're closer to where we should have been a couple weeks ago. It's COVID won't keep us back too long. All right, let me find the top of the agenda again and see what we're doing next here. Search update for our treasurer collector. Jessica, what do we have so far for applicants coming in? Do we have any?
We have 5 applicants right now. The job posting was posted on MMA, and it was also posted on the Treasurer Collectors Association of Massachusetts. So I had it listed saying that we will accept priority candidates up until this Friday at 5 p.m. And I also contacted Strategic Municipal Solutions. And in the packet, there is a contract that was written up by Mr. Conrad, who Matt put me in contact with. He's the president of the organization. And so I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at that, but they have someone available to start July 27th for 2 to 3 days a week, between 12 and 20 hours per week. And the amount of hours will be determined by the board. And the fee is $85 an hour. And they also charge mileage, which is $32.20 round trip per day. And that's what he came back to me with.
Okay, and that's going to get us a qualified treasurer collector.
Correct.
Okay.
If you want a little bit of background of the individual, he would send us. She was the former treasurer collector for the town of Paxton.
Okay. What's our date going to be this Friday?
The 24th.
24th. So that leaves us only 1 week to have find someone. So yeah, the reality of getting somebody in here in a week is not going to happen. I'd be inclined to entertain this. What do you guys think?
I tend to agree. We're not going to be able to find someone in that short amount of time. So we definitely should take a close look at this and perhaps move forward on it.
Very expensive rate.
I'd like to make a mention that I did some math, and if we had this firm come in just for 2 days a week, it would be, and including the travel time, it would be $14, $24, $40 per week, which is only it's very close to what we pay our current treasurer collector for a full-time salary.
Yeah. 2 days would be 20 hours, right?
Yes.
You're saying 16 hours.
Oh, well, 16 hours. I said 2 8-hour days.
16 hours. Okay. So it'd be more that way. And I don't know what the crucial times are, days to bring in the treasurer. I think typically Monday, Tuesday is our check processing and signing time, I believe. Tuesday, Wednesday. And I don't know how much the treasurer's reviewing these beforehand. I would think there's a bit of time in there beforehand. Just unfortunately not familiar enough with the office and the day-to-day workings to know what we. Either you have any better perspective on this?
I would say that 2 days a week is more than enough for them to keep us afloat until we find the treasurer we want. Primarily, they'll be making sure that our various bank accounts are properly transferred if necessary in order to cover checks. They can review anything we need to double check on. They work through the, verify the bond payments, so they're checking our amortization schedules, et cetera, to make sure we're not late on payment. They're the ones that make sure that we get our, in combination, obviously, with the town administrator's office, that we get our assessments paid to the various school districts. Jean is aware of that, so she definitely can help fill in that gap, but it's not her responsibility. Her responsibility is just, did it land in the right ledger? Are we staying within budget? So I know Jean could very well help a lot with this, but when it comes to what banks and where the money's at, that's really the treasurer's thing. Where did she save the money and what accounts, and is it how many different banks? I think Sharon did a good job starting to consolidate some of those because it was getting a little hard to follow. So I think it wouldn't be too hard for this individual to come in and stay on top of that, so it doesn't slip in the event, after 2 months, all of a sudden we keep writing checks and we forgot to transfer money from one account to another, and all of a sudden things look bad, even though we had the money, we just didn't put it in the right account. So I think 2 days a week is more than enough for this individual to not only do that, but also kind of just pay attention to the processes and possibly just give us some thoughts on if there's any inefficiency in our process or what they think when it comes to how we invest our money.
Okay, I would add to that, if we could go ahead and do a motion and make the approval, but I don't want to pick the days yet. I think we'd leave that to be finalized after we talk to Sharon and see, what she thinks is the best day. That's all. So we could. I don't know how else to say. 25th is going to be what? Sunday's the 25th?
Saturday.
Saturday. So we really wouldn't need someone in the office till 27th. But it's smart to come in. Well, she'll still be here the 30th, correct? Is she taking personal time, or is she planning to be in the office?
Tonight, I'm planning on being in the office until the last day of the month.
So we could, if we brought someone in, we could start them, the last 2 days, or even Monday, Tuesday. I don't know which would be smarter.
I think you're right. Reach out to Sharon and kind of figure out what days might be best for some overlap where she can be there when they're there. And then also probably figure out what are the 2 best days a week where the treasurer being there is most important. So I think Sharon can kind of answer what you're saying about scheduling and trying to make it work. Probably pretty good if we can reach out to her and get an idea from her.
I'll find out from tomorrow and get back to you guys. The contract doesn't need us to indicate those days right away, so you guys can still vote on it tonight.
I haven't had an opportunity to read the whole contract through. I don't know if you guys, in this packet itself?
Yes.
Pages 55 and 55, 56.
Thank you. 2 pages, that'll be easy. I hate bouncing back and forth. I really can't wait to get back to meetings. Have you guys looked at it or no?
I have looked at it. Probably my biggest thing is the one line that says invoices for, I think it's supposed to say our services, but there's a typo there. So it says invoices for our will be submitted on the first each month for the following month's services throughout the engagement and are payable on presentation. I would kick back a little bit on that and request they revise that to say that we pay for services rendered, not for services to come later. We
Okay.
don't prepay for services.
Right.
Okay.
We really can't as a town. So.
I'll give him a call tomorrow.
Would anybody care to make a motion on that with that change so we could sign this once that is changed? Just be
I
signed.
make the motion that with the revision regarding paying for services rendered is made, that we approve this contract.
Okay, I will second that motion.
All right, motion and a second. Any more comment? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote to approve, to have Jessica sign this contract once that amendment is made. All those in favor?
Clark, yes.
Urban, yes.
And O'Sullivan, yes. I can fly back up in here again. Really, I always say I want to print all these papers out. I look at 100 and some odd pages. I'm not going to print them all out. COVID updates. Jessica, do you have any COVID updates for us or Sandy?
As of now, nothing really has changed in the past 2 weeks. In Massachusetts, the numbers are still pretty low. And it's looking like phase 4 is pretty still far off in the distance. So there's not really much new. I have been talking to both of the chiefs, Chief Fragowski and Chief Carbone, about things related to the CARES Act, but we can't. Chief Rogowski was specifically asking about future funding. That's not available yet. And then Chief Carbone was asking about purchasing some air filtration systems because he has seen that that's what doctors' offices are using to take out some of the contaminants in the air. So I'm going to be looking into those for future CARES Act purchases.
We've already applied for the air filters with the CARES Act money, so it should be something that we'll be able to do.
Okay.
I believe they sent us a letter saying they were approving our money, but I don't think we have the funds yet.
To us.
Say again?
The funds were released to the town.
Okay, so that was the amounts that we applied for.
It's a small amount of the larger, it's almost $500,000 is the full amount, but the smaller amount I believe is somewhere around $83,000.
Right, and the reason it was that number was some of the things that we are looking to purchase were going to be federally funded to a portion. So you'd have to find that sheet that we sent in, and that should have the list of the things we were planning to do with those funds. And proceed from there.
Right.
Have we made any steps to opening our town buildings yet?
So due to vacations and just mostly our Board of Health has been taking time off, we haven't had those conversations, but that's something everybody should be available on this Wednesday. So that's something that we're going to talk about, because I know that a lot of other towns, small towns, their town halls are open back up to the public to some capacity, if not 100% capacity. So we have the PPE, we have sanitization stations. So I don't see, we should be opening that service back up to residents.
I believe most have been open since early in July, if not the 1st of July, and we're way behind on this. So I would like to see something written up personally. We'll see what the other guys say about this, and I'd like to have the building open by next Monday.
Okay. Yeah, we can talk about that. I mean, it really depends on the community. I think Rutland is the only one that I know is 100% open, but most communities still are by appointment only.
I don't believe they are. By appointment only for most communities ended with June. That I know of. But well, what do you guys think? You think Monday is a reasonable opening date? Just going to set up our protocols. We can let so many in the building at a town. We can still schedule appointments if we want, but I think we've got to get open to the public.
I'd like to see the plan, just to make sure the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. Before making a determination at this moment, I would like to learn a little bit more about what that opening would mean. I just would like more information on it, but I think that if it can be done safely, it behooves us to make some steps. But I don't want to see it done before we really know what we're working with.
Matt, how about you? Your speaker is muted, or if you hung up, you want the phone?
I got myself muted again.
There you go.
I believe that we can get to that point. What I really like the idea of is by Monday, present us a plan. If you are comfortable with limited access, even if that limited access is setting up a table in the main lobby so anybody coming in doesn't go anywhere else in the building to start with, but they can come to a table that we have someone sitting there. Maybe we even put 2 tables so we can feel like we're keeping 6 feet apart from the person coming in and the person sitting there receiving it. So that people can drop off and pick up stuff in person rather than, like I got a message earlier, someone had to mail something to town hall so it could get to the building department because the outdoor slot for dropping off paperwork only accepts letter size type envelopes. And a lot of times you're presenting like plans that are too big to fit in that. So we actually had to mail them rather than be able to just have a place where you can drop it off. So if we could have someone that could receive stuff that can then be distributed to different departments, it does reduce the time that things are occurring because once it goes in the mail, it gets delayed. And then once it gets sent to town hall, well, it still now needs to get sent to a department. There can be multiple delays. So I do like the idea of, even if it's a partial open, I'd like to see a plan, kind of like Dylan said, and then see how we phase that in. Many of our offices, thankfully, can still work without having to have direct contact with the public. Like the treasurer's collector's office has their glass window, and it's a little easier to keep their separation if they choose. We still have to think a little bit more about the building department. Whether we put a table outside the door so that people can't come in, but they can see through the open door, which may get Andrea's attention so they can actually do business in that manner. So I do think there's planning involved. I know working with Worcester, There's a lot of planning involved. Even if it's taking one-way directions, if you're going to go up the stairs this way, you go down the other stairs. If you're going to enter the building, I mean, we really only have one narrow hallway when entering. So rather than just come and go and squeeze, just be patient. If someone's coming through, let them out before you run through yourself. Just certain little things that I know are, we still just got to be careful. Barry's been good with our numbers, but part of that is because we haven't really raced out and done some things that people in bigger cities are doing. Hopefully things just stay positive, but we do need to take some steps.
Well, I won't even get into the numbers and the stats yet at this point, but I think we are lagging behind. I think we need to make efforts and to come up with a plan. I know it's a bit difficult because we've had our second interim administrator. It's difficult to have this done, but I don't think it's unreasonable to get the doors open, get people inside. It's not like we're a bustling place that has 50 people swarming the building at a time. We generally have one or two in at a time during the day. It's never a very crowded place. I don't see a problem that each individual office could do their own thing to social distance, having a desk or divider 6 feet away, asking people to wear a mask, sanitizer for the hand before they hand documents back and forth. Not that it matters if documents been out of the building already. It's kind of ridiculous. Sanitize your own hands after to keep yourself safe. But I really think we need to move forward. Get something going, get a plan together. So I think we should ask Jessica to work on a plan. Move forward. At least by our next meeting, then be able to say open the building. I think that's reasonable if you guys would agree.
It really depends on the tightness of the enclosed space. The biggest concern right now with rise of any type of numbers, no matter what state or town or whatever, is multiple people being in a tight spot without fresh air. People breathing the same air in over and over and over. Whether you're wearing a mask or not, if you're not refreshing the air, there's a higher risk. So our buildings don't have, most of them anyway, do not have central air that we can pull in outside air and exhaust inside air. So we're reliant on people either with windows open or getting those air filtration devices where there may be a higher concentration of random public people entering that space. So that is one of my concerns. It's more about the airborne transmission than picking it up on a surface, because I think picking it up on a surface is like Greg said. Wash your hands, use hand sanitizer. You're less likely to bring it to your face and get something. But if you have 3 people come into a room that's, say, Sandy's office, 3 people end up in front of her desk. She's sitting in the same office now, breathing everything they breathe until she leaves, because we have no way of filtering that air out.
Matt, we have 2 windows in those offices we can open in the back hall. We need cross ventilation, and they can have a desk at the doorway so nobody comes into the room. You stop in the hallway. There should be nobody entering our office, is my point. You put a desk across the hallway in between there and the Board of Health room across the hall. And people don't come out of the hallway into those rooms, period. We could have out there and have a bell, and you could walk up and see what they want and collect their papers and answer their questions from a safe distance and keep them in the hallway. The hallways of the building, the main areas, are very spacious, and we keep ventilation going with the windows being open there as well. And we're not talking about people coming in masks and standing there for hours. We're talking about somebody coming in for 2 or 3 minutes, conduct their business, and leave, and not enter anyone's rooms. That's why I said that each department can do their own blocking. So if you came down the hall to our offices, I would want to see a table across the hallway prior to the office door. Customers would stop. Town clerk has a window. Collector has a window. The assessor has a desk, and they can keep themselves back far enough with that desk. we do have good spacing in our building available to everybody. We have lots of windows we can keep open ventilation.
I got you. So all I would ask is that to be part of the plan.
Yes, and do look at the request we put in. We were planning on getting filtration systems, and we'll just have to look at the monies they've approved. Heather made a plan up and see where those filtration plants met. Were they 100% state? I don't think they were. I think they were partial state and partial fed, so the fed may be something we have to buy and be reimbursed from. I don't know how the federal side of that's working.
Okay. I'll look into it.
Anything else you guys want to cover for COVID or for updates? Okay, we'll move on to recognition of class of 2020 graduates. Who's placed that on the agenda?
I did. Well, I asked Jessica to put it on.
Okay, you're up.
I saw on, I think it was Facebook, somebody was talking that the school department was looking to do some type of graduation ceremony for the 2020 people in August of some sort. And I'd asked Jess if she could reach out to Greg Devine, the principal, maybe Sheila, the superintendent, and clarify what's going on. Only because I've also heard people were grumbling that the town did not do much to support our high school graduates compared to what other towns have done, not just the school department. So I just asked if Jessica could get a better idea about what that schedule is, and then we, the board, could talk about what we may or may not want to do to support our graduating class.
So I reached out to the principal of Quabbin Regional High School, Mr. Devine, and he said that the only detail that they have is that it's scheduled for August 7th at 5:30 p.m.
Typically, we
Are
don't.
they,
Go ahead, Matt.
I was just trying to find out, is this something where they're looking to do it, like, did they even talk about indoors, outdoors, or did he just say August 7th and he doesn't know any more yet?
Yeah, he said they're working on the details, and they will have a plan to bring to the Board of Health soon. So that was the most recent update that I have from him.
Thank you.
My point would just be to note that we normally don't do anything to get involved with the high school's graduation unless they invite us to some activities or something. It's a school board and school thing. We're certainly proud of all the graduates, but typically we don't do anything in particular for them. What can we really do? There's nothing we can do for them. Acknowledge them. People can put signs around town as they want, which most people have. They put out signs to recognize the graduates. I don't know if much else we can do other than acknowledge them. Unless you guys have a suggestion of something you'd like to do.
I would like to add
Well,
most communities, from my experience and from what I've seen, most communities that have had recognition for their graduates have come from local businesses and parents that come together. And so I personally haven't seen anything that has been sponsored by the town. It's really just been from within the community.
Well, that's been my experience as well. Go ahead, Matt. You're going to say something?
yeah, and I can't confirm this. This is just what people told me. And it kind of, like you're saying, Greg, I'm just used to the school does their school thing. It's not really a Board of Selectmen town thing, but especially with a regional school district, it's even less of very. So I never pay attention to kind of the graduation cycle because I also have no kids. So it's not the first thing in my. But people brought it to my attention. They talked about, like, I guess, the town of Rutland put up signs around their common or not. I don't know if the town initiated that or they just approved other people doing it. So because it was brought to my attention, I didn't want it to be me answering. I wanted the board to talk about it and just see, is this something that we think either one, kind of a blanket, as long as you got a positive sign on that day of graduation, we're okay with people putting signs around the common, or just putting it out there that if people want to, just send in an application for use of town property. In regards to graduation, we're not going to charge anybody for the use of town property, but you can have a night where you put signs up or something. I just thought I would talk to the board to see what we might be open to, not necessarily using town funds or resources, but if somebody came to us, are we open with certain requests they might have of us? I wasn't really sure how to approach it, and I didn't want to answer for the board necessarily when people came to me about this. So I thought I'd talk to the board, and I just asked Jessica to reach out to the principal if she knew anything, so that when we talk, we may or may not have any information to actually talk about.
All right.
I can say I'm very amenable if anyone, if individuals or groups approach the board with ideas for how we can best honor the graduating class. I'm all ears.
All right. Well, all I would add is official congratulations to those graduates of 2020. It's too bad you didn't get to have the normal graduation you would, and I do hope that you can have a semi, if not fully normal graduation when it does happen in August. And, I hope people put signs out in their lawns. I have seen some to congratulate graduates and acknowledge them in their own way, and the board, I'm sure, will do anything we can to help with those postings, as far as town property use goes.
I agree with that. Thanks for listening, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you for bringing it up. Finance, Coastal Medical Billing Group for uncollectible claims. I believe this is our fire department list for 2 or 3 years worth of ambulance receipts. And as Chief Rogowski explained it to me, when this collection agency gets to the point to say it's not collectible, then it is not collectible. Some people are deceased, some people just have no money. And we're just, throwing good money after bad to continue pursuing it. So that's what I know of it. Anybody have any comments towards it or discussion about it?
I have no comments. Historically, I've come to trust Rob Rogowski's recommendation. Generally, he's tried to chase every avenue, and kind of like what you said, Greg, it's not worth spending more money to find no more money.
I also have no further comment on that.
Trying to find the uncollectible amount. Jessica, do you have a bottom line number on that, what the amount is we're writing off? Or we can just say that the recommendation list is fine, but it's a good value of money, but it is over multiple years. This isn't just this year or some current term. This is a couple of years of uncollected monies.
Correct. It's the balance $229,782.67.
That's being deemed uncollectible.
Correct.
It's a 7-page list. Trying to see, I don't see, there are service dates. Some as early as.
Names for patient safety.
What's that?
I said I just omitted the patient name for privacy reasons, but everything else is there.
Of course, no, I'm looking at dates. The dates are, the earliest one, most recent I see is March of 2019. 17, 16, May of 2015. And it looks like most of them are at least 6 years old, unless this is just the most recent days. There's quite a few from May of last year, but that's still a year old plus. Then we go to 18s, 17s, 16s, and 15s, so it's quite a list. But as I said, I believe they are truly uncollectible. We'd like to get them out of the company's hands so they stop putting time into it that we pay for. So I look for a motion on that, guys.
I make a motion to accept the fire chief's recommendation to identify the listed ambulance jets as uncollectible.
I will second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Ask for any further comment. Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Clark, yes.
Urban, yes.
And O'Sullivan,
Just want to make
yes.
sure though, is just identifying them as uncollectible what we need to vote on, or do we need to vote on a different wording, like is there specific words we need to
we're
say,
writing.
like, releasing the, you know what I mean?
Writing off.
Okay, is that what we should use in the wording so nobody questions it?
That's the wording that Chief Rogowski recommended.
All right.
So I'll make a motion that we write off these uncollectible bills.
Thank you, Greg. I second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to declare these uncollectible bills as written off. All those in favor?
Clark, yes.
Urban, yes.
O'Sullivan, yes. We've identified them as uncollectible and written them off. Now, Quabbin School District. This is our, our first quarter assessment? Is that what this is?
Correct.
Absolutely.
Greg, you're muted.
I don't know how that happened. Looks like we're $1,396,927.71 is due on August 15th.
Correct.
Does this require a vote by us? It does not, does it? It is part of the omnibus budget. This has been approved. It's just letting the public know that it's out there is the point of this, I assume.
Correct. I just wanted to get the communication out to you all.
Okay, Dylan or Matt, do you have any comment or input?
I have no comment at this time.
I have one question,
Yeah.
and this is probably something I would like, we'll need some follow-up, but why is a 1/12 budget, why are we paying them 3 months worth of money if they're only supposed to be able to do it 1 month at a time? Why are we fronting that much?
I can answer that for you. The 1/12 budget isn't meant to be a percentage like 9%. It's meant to be a month. So it's broken down to 12 months. And the way we paid the school is quarterly. So we hit it hard now, then the next 2 months' payments are almost nothing. That's the way we've always paid them. And that's the way it was explained, because I've already asked this of the treasurer and things, and of Heather. But it's the month, each month is due. So it's 12 months, it's 12 payments. It's not true 1/12 is a percentage of budget. That's why the budget that was approved was this amount. We approved the first, I think, 3 or 4, or I thought we did like 3. Or maybe we just approved the first one. But this sum was approved already for the 12th budget. It's been put forward to the state, approved by the state.
All right. I just didn't understand how the
Enough.
school department could. you would think when you get into this range, you're not paying them quarterly anymore. If we're all on a 1/12 budget, you're paying them for what they need a month at a time. But apparently, because of the contract, the regional agreement is a quarterly payment. That's what we're doing.
Right. Then our next 12th will be almost nothing. And the next 12th will be almost nothing. And then the fourth 12th will be a good hit again. That's just the way it goes. But that's what's approved by the state, and that will be approved. That number's already been approved by the state. We put our 1/12 in before the town meeting.
Thank you.
And since the school, we've approved the number, but since the school doesn't have a full agreement consensus from all the towns, they've got to go up on a 1/12 from last year anyways. Pretty much that's why they're giving us that number. That's their 1/12. We are operating off a full budget because we did approve our omnibus. Next is our collection of minutes that we're up to. Okay, let me see. Yes, the next is the minutes. We have minutes for April 21st, June 15th, June 19th, June 24th, and a joint with the Finance Committee on June 25th. Do I have a motion for those minutes from anyone?
Unless, Mr. Chairman, unless you have any comments, or if Mr. Urban does, I would like to put forth a motion to approve the meeting minutes of those 5 Board of Selectmen meetings.
Very good. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second that.
A motion is second to approve the meeting minutes for those 5 dates I listed. Any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none, I will call for vote. All those in favor?
Clark, yes.
Urban, yes.
And Sullivan, yes. So minutes are approved. What I don't see in here yet, unless I've missed it, is I don't see our discussion listed for the administrator position. That is not in here. How come?
I don't know how that didn't make it on the agenda packet, but on the official agenda that's posted online, it is included on the agenda. So I'm not sure how.
Can any of you guys verify that's been posted for the town, please, before we continue?
I just that.
I need someone to.
Yes, it is on the My Town Government page. Town Administrator search update.
Okay. We will delve into that next topic. Have you guys taken the time to at least, we'll just start with the simplest thing. Have you ranked them in 1 through 5?
I have, yes.
Yes, I have.
What I was thinking is maybe we'll take our top 3, score 3 points for first choice, 2 for second, and 1 for third, and see where we are on our initial picks for top 3 before we continue discussion. If you guys are all right with that.
I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Who would like to make their list? Do you guys want me to start with my list? I have no problems with.
I'll start.
All right.
From starting from 1 to 3, I have Connor Bryan,
Yes.
Kevin Kenny, Jessica Sargent.
Is this, which order is this?
So Sean O'Brien would be my first
second,
choice.
third.
Evan Kenny would be my second. And Jessica Sizer would be my third when ranking them 1 through 5, 1 being the highest.
Okay.
I'll go. I listed Jessica Sizer, number 1, Evan Kinney, number 2, Sean O'Brien, number 3.
Okay. I listed Evan as my number 1. I listed Sean as my number 2. And Jessica would be my number 3. Let's do points. You know, 6, 7, 5. We're all close on points. I didn't actually make my recommended pros and cons list. 9 hours after we talked last week, at 5 a.m., my father passed away, so I've been a little preoccupied with family things. It's not an excuse to not get them done, but I did rank them. I just never got my pros and cons down. So I will defer if you guys want to do something different, or if you want to just talk about the candidates in general, why you all chose what you chose. We can certainly proceed that way.
Well,
I apologize for not doing pros and cons.
Well, I would say maybe since our lists are pretty similar, it's the same 3 names, just in 3 slightly different orders. Maybe we should do a second round of interviews.
We certainly could, and that will give us, as we talked about, the opportunity to develop personalized questions for each of the members and focus on just these 3 instead of the generic questions we've asked anybody. Get a little bit more detail on things we're looking at. And I'd like to try to do these maybe, well, as soon as we can. I don't want to wait a long time. Maybe we can do them Thursday or Wednesday this week. Thursday would be preferred for me, but whatever you guys do, I can make sure I'm here for you.
I would prefer to set them up for next week. My condolences to you, but I'm still dealing with my mother's death and organizing and working through funeral arrangements. I know that her calling hours are Sunday and her service is Monday next week. So between now and then, I'm not going to have my head straight to make the right type of, I just don't think it's something worth forming to say that I'm going to make necessarily good decisions. They might be more emotional rather than logical decisions, and I want to, I think it would be better if we just wait till next week to get through this round of interviews. I feel comfortable with Jessica in the role as an interim, so I don't think an extra week is going to hurt us.
Fair enough. Dylan, you okay with that?
Of course.
Okay, you guys want to pick a day for next week so we can start getting these lined up and let Sandy line them up for us? I'll be available, Tuesdays usually my out day. Tuesdays were my out days, gentlemen, because that was my golf day with my father since he'd been fighting cancer for 8 years. But I'll still continue with either my brothers or my kids to finish his name through the year and the season. I'll continue my Tuesdays. But, any other day is fine with me.
How's Wednesday work? Dylan.
Great.
Dylan?
Yep.
Wednesday? Okay.
Let's do
So
Wednesday.
let's start. Target Wednesday, 6:30 start time again?
Yep.
Okay, Dylan, 6:30?
Yep, that sounds good to me. Putting it in my calendar.
Okay. So Sandy, your challenge with lining up Sean O'Brien, Evan Kenny, and Jessica for us for our meetings, for our interviews next Wednesday, beginning at 6:30. I don't have any particular concern for the order, Sandy. I'll leave that up to you. and or the calls as you take them and arrange them. Once again, 30 minutes per person. The select board will come up with their own interview questions. Each of us will develop probably up to 3. I don't want to go any more than that, but up to 3 questions, unless, we can have small follow-ups per candidate. And the idea is to explore specific areas we have concerns or questions before we make our hire. Very good.
Yep.
Thank you very much. That brings us down to correspondence. We have a letter from Diane Jordan. I don't know if I've read that one yet. Let me go click through the 100 pages and find it.
It's the last page or two.
Do you have it, Dylan? Would you like to read it as our clerk?
I will read it.
Breeze through, because once we did this and it turned out it said not to be shared. So make sure it doesn't end with that, because sometimes they do instead of begin with it. I forget what it was we read. Well, I know what it was we read, but I won't go back into it.
Okay. So we received this letter June 30th, 2020. Dear sirs and madam, on Tuesday, June 30th, a highway department brush cutter came up Britton Road West to cut brush. I've had pine trees bordering my house for over 25 years. I've lived in this house for over 47 years. There have been many brush cuttings over the years. These trees have never been a problem and were never touched. They added some charm to the road. They have made it through an ice storm, large farm equipment going by, and people taking clippings to decorate a Christmas, but they could not survive the new piece of equipment the highway department purchased. I called the highway department and the supervisor came to look, which I did appreciate. The first thing he said was, "Good job." Shocker, because the trees were torn apart. He also said the trees were town property. The trees are 5.5 feet off the road. They in no way touched the road. I used the word road loosely because the road is more chopped up than the trees. I mentioned the road to the supervisor and was told it was on the list. It must be a very long list because the road has been in this shape for a long time. I invite every selectman to take a ride up Britton Road West, get ready to dodge some deep holes, and I'm sorry you will miss the aesthetics that these trees produced. Thank you for your time. Respectfully, a very disheartened taxpayer, Dan Jordan.
Thank you. That is once again an issue that needs to be brought into the DPW Commission meeting, and we can certainly bring that to the meeting when we have one, which is something, gentlemen, that we ought to touch on while we're on this. I'm very frustrated that we haven't had a commission meeting in multiple months now. There's been no attempt made to have a meeting. It seems to me that they're canceled by the DPW administrator as opposed to the commission member, or the commissioner of the board that we have down there. It's frustrating, and I think we need to look into the assignment. It seems to me that the board members of the sewer commission represent that piece of the water, public works, and sewer, and the water department board brings in the water aspect. And it was always my impression the select board were in charge of the roads of the town and the Department of Public Works as far as the roads and highway go. We certainly approve highway funds. And we do the hiring, we do the job descriptions. So I think we need to really look further into this, see, if the highway is supposed to be under our direction and we bring that portion to that committee, or if it is truly the committee only that governs the highway department, because many of these comments come to us, people expect us to be able to act on it. And quite frankly, our hands are tied without the commission. You guys have similar frustrations or any thoughts on that?
I would like to see commission meetings resume in some way soon. I haven't spoken with Jason or anyone in the commission about that specifically, but I think it's high time that we at least are able to communicate more with what's happening with the DPW.
I agree.
Yeah.
I do believe we need to make something happen. I think we need to look at the second Monday of August and get the word out that we, this meeting can't be missed or skipped or canceled or postponed. I don't think we've had a meeting since February,
I believe that's
whether
right.
it's Zoom or not. So there's plenty of business we need to address to include formal approval by the Board of Selectmen on the roads that they're going to be repaving this year under Chapter 90. And then, of course, when these complaints come up, that is a venue where we can express on behalf of the board that we received this letter and we would like them to look into it. You know, verify how far the trees were from the center line and what is the width of the road. Let's just make sure that we're not making assumptions. We're actually doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Yes, and usually when we're getting the width of the roads, I've looked into this before with the DPW. They have a state road map which lists each road in town and the width of each road, and it doesn't necessarily mean from the center line, depending how the road is laid in. You know, if you have a 40-foot wide ownership of a road for the town, but there's all boulders off to one side and there's a clear path on the right, then your road may be on the right edge of that, ownership, and you may own. The road could be as narrow as, 15, 16 feet in a dirt road. You could own 24 feet off to one edge, or it could very well be centered. So, and a few feet off each side. But a lot of these dirt roads are not very wide. A portion of the normal 40-foot width. But yeah, certainly something we could look into. We could, if we had a meeting, we could ask to look at the road map and see the layout of that area, see how they decided the tree was town or not town. Any other further comment on this, gentlemen? We just want to wait and make sure that Jessica reaches out to the other commissions and lets them know we strongly want to have a meeting. We would suggest to be Zoom, and we could offer that our office will establish and set that meeting up if necessary. I often see it's canceled by Jason, and quite frankly, Jason's not a member of the commission. Jason is the person that reports to the commission, and I don't know how he's the one that can cancel any meeting. It should be canceled by the chairman of the board, and I don't know why it's done the way it is. It's confusing to me. I looked at his job description in the past, and maybe that's something we need to revisit as well. It's sloppily written down there. And it does say that he works about 40 hours a week, and it does say that he has to be available for these meetings, and he has to be available for emergency calls, and he has to be available 24/7 to the board. So to cancel the meeting ever because he's not available is not acceptable with his job description. But once again, it seems to be not something enforceable by us; it's by a commission that doesn't. I agree. We reach out to these other boards and offer that we can arrange a meeting, put it on Zoom. The meeting should occur as long as we can get 2 other members to come with this board. That's 5 of the 9, and we'll have a meeting.
Agreed, and I also think that we can kind of talk more about situations where maybe he has a true conflict, whether he's actually taking vacation and it happens to be the second week of a month. We can be reasonable about that, but it doesn't mean we have to cancel the meeting for the month. We just reschedule it to the following week and maybe do it on a Tuesday night. I think we can be a little more flexible as a commission, but also as the superintendent, so that we can all still get together at least once a month. And so I agree with that. I think we can make it happen.
It's frustrating when people give us, correspondence, and we really have no authority to respond to them. It's just frustrating. So if the committee gets together, we can get that correspondence. And if Jason can't make a meeting, it doesn't mean the committee doesn't meet. We still have a DPW foreman. We still have input from the Water and Sewer Commissions to let us know what's going on there. And get our updates across the board.
I'll make sure that meeting gets.
All right. Say again.
Said I will make sure that meeting gets facilitated.
Thank you. And you can let the there's a water commission, sewer commission, 3 members each as part of our meeting. As long as 2 people total want to come, we have unless, and I say that, I better be careful. I don't know if we need to have a minimum and a quorum of a member from each board or how the quorum is set for that meeting. You might want to check that with Jim Beard and see to make sure what a quorum is, because it may be defined differently as that there's 3 different committees making up that board. It may require representation from each or majority of each. I don't know.
Okay, I will look into it.
Thank you. Selectmen reports, gentlemen, anything we're working on a specific you want to bring up or talk about?
Not at this time.
Nor do I, Matt.
No. Yeah, I would just say that no, never mind. We'll create an agenda item out of it moving forward. I don't need it now. We're good.
Thank you. Jessica, you have anything for us?
Sure, I just want to give an update on the cable access project that I've been working on. As I said before, I've been working with the representative and state senator on finding some news for funding and getting this project off the ground. And I met with the superintendent and the IT director from the schools. And we had a pretty good meeting today. They are meeting with Charter to see about, Charter has this initiative that is extending cable access Wi-Fi to students in K through 12, and potentially there's some room for educators as well. So they are going to meet with Charter tomorrow, I believe, or sometime this week, on seeing where that can go. And I think that would be a really exciting opportunity for at least getting us a percentage of people connected to internet in this big project.
Excellent. I was very excited when I saw Sheila reach out with that. I thought that's going to really expand our possibilities of getting something substantial done to the town.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that first initial meeting goes, and then they're going to report back to me on how it goes, and then we're going to see how we can move forward with that relationship with Charter.
Very good. Matt, you have any comment on that?
I think it's good. I think a secondary line of discussion we want to look into is we may need to try to find a way to get it out to the general public to get some response. But from my understanding is we still have people that are on streets that do have cable on the street, but they live too far from the street to get a standard hookup. And those are the ones that have a hard time figuring out how to get good internet because they might have to run 300 feet of cable line from the street to their house. And I think some of them are getting charged, maybe $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 just to hook up. And they can't afford it. And that was where I was kind of talking when we were, this $100,000 wouldn't be just about putting in lines. But we need to find out how many people are in that circumstance that if they could actually get it to their house, they would use it and do the monthly user fee, but they just can't get it to their house. And we can figure out how many people kind of fit that category. We can determine if there's any way the town can help them get it to their house, because in the long run, that also increases the value of every house that gets it. And so it would be a long-term benefit to the town. And then I'm not saying that we pay for it, but maybe we can create some type of short-term loan or betterment tax for those individual homes where we can kind of front the cost with this $100,000 kind of within that total of money, and then charge them over 3 years to pay it back. So now they're not trying to come up with more than they can do in a short term.
Right. That was done under that program for home improvements before years ago when we signed, and a lot of those as they closed off when their obligation of time is all they had. But yeah, there's got to be a way to set that up, and probably needs to talk with council again to see, how that was established before, if it was just because it was federal money or is there a way we can set that account up in that program where people can, if it's $3,000, they're not going to pay it back in the first year, or they'd save and do it in a year. It's going to take a couple of years to find out how that agreed. We did talk about that. I think we expressed it at the town meeting too. We got one. Pretty well expressed all the hopes we had. So.
Right. So I think maybe what I would be just hinting at with Jessica is we're going to try to get an idea of how many people in town fit that category. So we got to come up with a way to kind of reach out to the town, whether it's mailings or I think people use something called Survey Monkey before for things. But how do you get it to the town residents so they know it's something to respond to? And so we got to kind of work that plan out. I don't have any finalized plan now, but I do think that's what we got to do to take the next step.
Let's get it up on the webpage at least.
I think Charter may even be able to find that out because they know, so when I was initially talking to Andrew from the schools, he said that Charter needed to know the exact addresses that don't have any hookup so they can go through and look through their records to see where the nearest poles are. So Charter may already have that information available to them.
Let's hope.
Okay, that would be a good start.
Right. Because a survey, it can be a hit or miss because it's likely that the people who don't have internet are the ones that are not going to see an online survey. So then, I just have my hesitations about how effective surveys can be.
Yeah, a lot of them can still access through their phones in 4G and check town sites out. If somebody tells them, it gets hearsay. So I think it's still good to get it out there and hope that they hear word of mouth and pick up their cell phone and check it out. Usually, you can't take your cell phone and make a hotspot. It costs you way too much money to run your internet that way for your house. But you can certainly check things like this out through it. So it's still going to be helpful, but you're right, not an end all.
And I don't know what it would cost if we actually sent a mailing out. We have the address list like we do for street listings and census information. The town clerk mails to every household in the town. We could use that same mailing list and actually mail surveys out is another option so that we know we're getting people that may not have internet access, but they at least get the letter in the mail saying the town is interested in pursuing upgrades and the following information is requested, et cetera, to help us better plan this. That might be an option, but I don't know the cost, so I'm not going to assume that that's something we can do until we know better. It's just a thought I'm putting on the table.
Let's hold that off until we know. Let's see what Charter comes back with first. They may, like Jessica said, they may have that list ready and just print it out, which would be ideal. We'll go from there.
Okay.
Anything else, Jessica?
That is it for me this evening. Unless you have any questions.
Sandy, anything you want to add in before we get out of here?
Nope, I'm all set.
We'll look for the appropriate motion then, gentlemen.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I second that.
I have a motion and second for adjournment. Hearing no further comment, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Mark, yes.
Urban, yes.
O'Sullivan, yes. So our next meeting will be the August 1st meeting. I don't have the date offhand, but gentlemen, good night. We will talk again soon. Well, pardon me. Our next meeting is Wednesday. Sorry, next Wednesday.
29th.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good night.
Excellent. Good night, everybody.